Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Sonic 4 Episode 2. Last time we made our way through White Park Zone, and in this episode we're going to go ahead and start up the third zone of the game, Oil Desert Zone. So Oil Desert Zone, out of the 5 different zones in Sonic 4 Episode 2, this one's my least favorite. I don't really like the aesthetic of this one as much because, as you noticed so far throughout our time playing Sonic 4 Episode 2, the level designs here are more original this time around than they were in Sonic 4 Episode 1. Every single level in Episode 1 was based off some level from the classic Sonic games on that Genesis. But in Sonic 4 Episode 2, for the most part these levels are all new designs. This is one of those levels where that new design idea, not so much. Oil Desert Zone is based off of Oil Ocean from Sonic 2. You can clearly tell because it is a oil refinery, just like how Oil Ocean Zone was in Sonic 2 in the Genesis. You'll be seeing oil throughout your time here, so it's a callback to that zone. And just a lot of the level design here I'm just not as big of a fan of, and the music in Oil Desert I'm just not really a fan of, especially Act 2. Act 2's music is just very infamous from Sonic 4 Episode 2. If you played the game, you know what song I'm already talking about. So it's just my least favorite zone in the game. But with that all said, I should go ahead and mention some of the gimmicks of the zone, because this zone, because of it being a desert, there's going to be a lot of wind you're going to be dealing with here that can either push you forward or backwards depending which way you go. So it can get kind of annoying, but it's not really that big of a hindrance. In fact, you can just use your little air dash and just push your way through the wind. It's not that big of a deal. Then you have this ending segment of level here where you're going to be flying around with Tails and the wind's going to be pushing you forward. This here is supposed to be one of those hard parts of the level because of the instant death traps below you with the bottomless pits and then the spikes. So one wrong move here and you're falling. But a lot of times you can just kind of jump past through a lot of this and then start flying with Tails. So it saves you in some of the flight meter with Tails. It's very easy for you in this section, or at least for the beginning portion of it, to just kind of jump, get as far as you can with just Sonic by himself, and then start flying with Tails. That's what I always like to do, and it works. Although that ending segment where they have the red ring, that's probably the worst part of this level, just because it's so easy to get hit there by some of the fire. So that section is very easy to die in. But here we are, we're in Special Stage 7. This is the special stage you hear everyone talk about if they're talking about special stages in Sonic 4 Episode 2. This is the stage a lot of people on their first playthrough had a very hard time beating. And it's because if you don't use the boost ability here, you're not going to be able to get enough rings to meet the quota for the Chaos Emerald. If you don't boost, you're just not going to be able to collect enough rings at all. Especially during this second segment of the special stage. This one in particular, you need to use boost to get most of your rings. It's ridiculous. But this is also the special stage where they love to throw that tether ability at you. So you need to know how to use this tether ability as well in order to get a lot of rings. So you'll be seeing that pop up a lot, especially in the third segment of the special stage. Now this portion right here, this corkscrew portion, you have to run all the way around on the bottom of the floor and the ceiling. You have to run all the way around that pipe, because if you don't do so, you're not going to have enough rings for both segment 2 and 3. You especially want to do that for the third segment, because we have more than 500 rings, so we have enough to get the Chaos Emerald now. And the reason why you want to get most, if not all, your rings to get the Chaos Emerald from the second segment of this stage is because every single ring now in this third section of the special stage is gonna be these perfect bonus ring trails. You need to collect these rings, and you need to get perfects, because if you don't, you're not gonna get enough rings by the end of this to get the Chaos Emerald. So this section in particular is where you're gonna struggle, because if you didn't get enough rings at this point, and you're not able to collect all the rings in a row to get the perfect bonus, you're just not gonna be able to beat the special stage. I remember my first time playing, I was on the special stage for quite some time just because I didn't have enough rings at this section and couldn't get the perfect bonus a lot of the time. So I just didn't have enough rings to get the emerald. So it did take me a couple tries my first playthrough to get to this point, but I was already using the boost so much in these special stages that it just didn't really matter to me. I was able to already boost around and get so many extra rings that I didn't need to worry too much about getting the ring bonus near the end. It was just those ring trails that were the problem. But now that we collected all 7 Chaos Emeralds, we can transform into Supersonic, and we'll be seeing Supersonic starting in Oil Desert Act 2. But this is the stage that has the music everyone loves to make fun of, for obvious reasons. It sounds like ducks. Like, there's no way around it. The beginning of the song, it just sounds like quack, 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 quack. Like, you can't unhear it. Once you hear someone make the quack sound, you can't unhear it. It just sounds like electrical duck. And I don't get why. What was the idea of that kind of direction with the song? It made no sense. And it's my least favorite song in the game just because it just sounds out of place. It's weird. But luckily, now that we have Supersonic, we won't be hearing that music all too much here in Oil Desert Act 2 because once we get 50 rings, we can go ahead and transform. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and hit this gold container that has these hands on it because that's Sonic and Tails' special ability. When you hit one of these capsules, you just mash the crap out of your jump button, so the A button in this case. And if you do so, you get a pretty big ring bonus. And now with all these rings, let's go ahead and transform into Supersonic. Funny thing about Supersonic in Episode 2 is that you get the same Supersonic music you got in Sonic 4 Episode 1, but the physics also changed in Sonic 4 Episode 1 as well, which is really weird. They just kind of ported over Supersonic control from Sonic 4 Episode 1 into Episode 2. They didn't bother giving Supersonic the same physics as the Episode 2 engine has, so he kind of controls a lot more floaty than normal Sonic does in Sonic 4 Episode 2. It's a little weird, honestly, because when you first play this game, you notice you're all over the place as Supersonic when you first play, because of that control just being a lot more floaty, which is how it was in Episode 1. It's weird, they just didn't use the same physics for him. I don't know why they didn't. They just didn't bother changing it up a bit, because Supersonic, he jumps higher, he moves faster, and he's invincible. So Supersonic is able to do a lot more stuff that normal Sonic can't do. In the Sonic 4 games in particular, Supersonic can't drown. So Supersonic's so powerful in the Sonic 4 games, it's ridiculous. But him having the Sonic 4 Episode 1 physics in Episode 2, that's a little weird, in all honesty. And it just takes some time to get used to, honestly. Because if you're going to use Supersonic a lot, it's a pretty big adjustment at first to have completely different physics, because you're all over the place. But here we are in Oil Desert Act 3, and taking this top path here is a little tricky because of these slippery oil paths, and one of them just being so much farther apart than the others. So I like to use Tails there to kind of fly around in it. And these segments of the level here, you have to rush through these as fast as you can because the sand is coming up from the bottom, and if you're not careful, it will crush you because it'll just push you right into the ceiling, and that's it for you. But one thing I should note about Supersonic is, for starters, he's a lot stronger than normal Sonic, so any multi-hit things like enemies or objects, you destroy him in one shot. So I like to use Supersonic in those sand pit rooms just because it gets me out of there quicker. But another thing is, if you use any of the tag team actions with Tails, using the fly, the swim, or to use your group spin attack, that actually cancels your Supersonic form and turns you back to normal Sonic. So if you don't want to be Supersonic anymore, just use a tag team action with Tails, and you're back to normal. That's a very interesting idea because this is the only Sonic game that I can think of that has the option to cancel out Supersonic, so there's a way for you to turn on and off your super form. I can't think of another game off the top of my head that actually lets you get out of Supersonic. So it's a very cool idea, and I kind of wish other games did that. And this game having its own separate Supersonic button, I love that. Both Sonic 4 Episode 1 and Episode 2 did this. They had their own separate buttons, because that way you were able to still use the homing attack, which is good. And in fact, it wasn't until recently in a patch for Sonic Mania that they gave you the option to use Supersonic on a separate button. So on the PC version was the first version that introduced this. You can go ahead and press the Y button, and you can transform the Supersonic, so you can still use things like your drop dash or the extra abilities of your characters. And the game that first introduced that idea was the Sonic 4 series, and I wished more 2D Sonics did that. So I'm glad to see Sonic Mania give you that option. But now we're into the boss fight of Oil Desert, And unfortunately that means we got this pinch music because we're fighting Eggman this time around, so we have the pinch music from Sonic 4 Episode 1 playing this entire time. But they give you enough rings here to actually transform into Super Sonic. So we have 56 rings, we can transform at will at this point. And Tails barely made it through that gate too, because you can snap Tails back to you whenever you want. I should mention that now, and I haven't at all yet. If you press the right trigger, you can snap Tails back to where you are. And you can do that in multiplayer too, so if you're playing this game with a friend, and you don't want your friend getting too far ahead of you, you just press the right trigger and they come right back to you. So it'll get really annoying. And also, this waiting animation for Sonic just kind of describes the long drawn out portions of these boss fights with Eggman. They just take way too long to get started. It took almost a full minute here before Eggman opened up his hatch for us to hit him. It's ridiculous. Almost a full minute? That's a little bit too much in my opinion. There's way too much waiting for these boss fights. I like how the boss fights are more interesting in Sonic 4 Episode 2 and are more original this time around, but dang it, they take forever to get started. It's ridiculous. But this fight, you're going to want to really utilize the ability to turn on and off Super Sonic with your tag team actions, so you can save your rings. When you're attacking a boss with Super Sonic does double damage against bosses. So if you want to finish up fights quickly, transform into Super Sonic, bonk something on the head, and then save your ring count by using a tag team action. It's as easy as that to get these boss fights done real quick. That's what I prefer doing in these kind of fights, because the shorter amount of time I'll be here, the better, because man, this is music repetitive, and this boss fight in particular takes a very long time, because there's so much waiting to it. You gotta wait for Eggman to pile up enough blocks, for him to climb up, and then for him to open up his little hatch to bop him on the head. So it just takes forever. To actually hit this guy, it can take you up to 20 to 30 seconds. It's just very drawn out. Once you do enough damage, Eggman will climb his way out of the room, and then you can fly up to chase him. And now the only way to actually attack Eggman is to use our group spin attack move just to knock him down to our level, because we're going to just hit him in the foot with Tails, and then we can just bonk him in the head. One more hit and he's dead. But we have to wait for that hit to actually be open to us. So his foot's glowing there, so let's call upon Tails to spin attack, and you know what? Let's just add some insult to injury. Take a supersonic bonk to the head. I should note that every single boss fight in this game, you can get 50 rings to transform. And if you beat every single boss as supersonic, you actually get an achievement for that. So there's an incentive to go back to previous levels, and Sonic, can you hit that? Thank you. But there is an incentive to go back to previous levels and defeat the bosses as Supersonic, and it's just for an achievement. It doesn't do anything else, so it's bragging rights basically. But now we freed the animals. Go free and don't fall in the oil. That'll be bad. In fact, why did we let them go free in the desert? That's probably a bad idea, but it's not the first time Sonic done this. Sonic has released these guys in Sandopolis, and they're fine. Like, once you kill the enemies, the animals just run free in the sand. And then we also have Oil Ocean, where they're free in the oil, so not the first time we've done that. But now with Oil Desert out of the way, we have access to our fourth zone in the game, Sky Fortress Zone. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and end the episode here. Next time on Let's Play Sonic 4 Episode 2, we'll be making our way to Sky Fortress Zone. I'll see you guys next time.